Isaac Wyatt, the Senior Director, GoToMarket Strategy and Ops for HashiCorp, and Tomasz, Tunguz, the partner at Redpoint Ventures.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here today with Tomasz to share with you about unifying marketing, sales, and customer success. We'll do our formal introductions in just a moment. It was really important for me to take a moment to share with you why I believe this is a very important topic. I was having a discussion with my friend Steve at Beachhead Marketing, and I walked him through my presentation for practice. He said, "Who would disagree with you? This content is straightforward. Why does this matter?" And I had to step back and think a little bit why this was a thing. And in reflecting, I realized that as a marketing operations practitioner for the better part of a decade now, I don't believe there's a path to the C-suite for marketing operations practitioners, which is a little disheartening for me, but I believe that there's a better path to the C-suite that doesn't involve a lateral jump to another type of function. And so what I hope to share with you today is something, if you're a practitioner in marketing operations or automation or a similar type of role, path to the C-suite that not only creates more business value, but also can help advance your career. So we'll do some introductions here now. So I'm Isaac. I'm at a company called HashiCorp. We do for developers and network operations and InfoSec what I'm here to do for marketing, sales, and customer success. And that's create a unified workflow for these three functions and organizations to work together that create more value for the customer and by extension more value for the business.
Sure, sorry. My name is Tunguz. I'm a partner at Redpoint Ventures. I've been at Redpoint for about a decade. I focus on early stage software companies. I write a blog at tomtunguz.com that reaches about 500,000 people per year, mostly around the topics in and around software as a service. Before joining Redpoint, I worked as a product manager at Google, and I managed a $300 million a year business in the AdSense team. Last year I wrote a book called Winning with Data with one of our portfolio companies called Looker, and it's a book that talks about how the best run companies in Silicon Valley use data to create sustainable competitive advantage. And I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you, Tomasz. I think many of the audience members are happy to have you here to support the narrative. So, unifying marketing, sales, and customer success. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. And when I joined HashiCorp, I had a chance to sit down with our CEO and say, I really think something is wrong with the customer journey today. Marketing has their marketing automation, and sales has CRM, and there's other functions. But it's all broken. It's not connected. A lot of you here today are listening to talks about CDPs and AI and whatnot, and sometimes the focus gets lost on what we're trying to do with it. So there's this question that Tomasz had on this blog is, how do we create better customer experiences when the customer journey is increasingly nonlinear and the data and the technology that supports the customer journey is increasingly fragmented? I heard earlier today, Scott Brinker said there was 7,800 marketing technologies out there, and if that's just marketing technologies, how many does sales have? How many does customer success have?
Yeah, I think so. From my perspective as a venture capitalist, what we're seeing in software as a service and in startup land broadly is we're seeing a huge amount of competition, right? And so if you look at the MarTech report, whether it's 5,000 companies or 8,000 companies, the reality is the universe of options, both as a buyer and a seller, has never been greater. And so the question facing most modern marketers is, how do I get above that noise? In addition to that, what we're seeing is the canonicalization, or kind of the go-to-market, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, the way that SaaS companies go to market has been documented. I've written blogs about it, many books have been written about it, lots of other people are writing about it. So the common way of going to market is incredibly well known. And one of the core principles that we have as investors at Redpoint is that the best businesses, the greatest businesses, enduring startups, are the ones that are formed at the Venn diagram intersection of a great product and an equally great go-to-market strategy. And so in a sea of 7,800 or 8,500 or however many hundred companies, the best product's not necessarily going to win. In fact, most of the time it doesn't. What has to happen is you have to have a really great product with a really terrific go-to-market strategy. And as we look as investors across the sea of competition, what we're really seeing is the companies that stand out are the ones who differentiate based on their go-to-market strategy, how they acquire customers. You can look at it in the consumer world. If you look at the billion-dollar acquisition of companies like Dollar Shave Club, the real innovation there is not that the razor is any better than a Gillette razor. It's that users want to buy, or not users, shavers want to buy razors in a completely different way than they have in the past. They want to buy it online, they want to receive it in the mail. It's very similar in what's happening in software as a service, and so the marketers and the companies that are able to differentiate and reach buyers in a new way, and Isaac and the team at HashiCorp, we're lucky enough to be investors in that business. It's an incredibly fast-growing company, and we were talking about it at lunch, it's got a really unique customer acquisition mechanism, which is, it's got a 4 different open source projects. They educate all their practitioners, and then the ACVs, the average customer value, it doesn't move like a Twilio does. It doesn't go from $30 a month to $100 a month to $1,000 a month to $10,000 a month. It goes immediately from 0 to $100,000 a month. And there are only 2 companies that we know of at Redpoint that have that go-to-market model, and we're fortunate enough to be investors in both. One is Hashi, the other one's called Snowflake. And that's a completely new way of going to market, super capital efficient, and leading to growth rates the likes of which we've never seen before. And so, I think the point of this presentation is exactly what Isaac talked about, which is there are career-defining opportunities available to marketers and practitioners in the go-to-market functions who can really identify a new way of going to market in a way that really creates a lot of value.
Yeah.
And navigating through that stack is going to be really important.
Thanks. Tomasz actually led us pretty quickly into this. On one of his blogs, he had this, it came out shortly after I joined HashiCorp, or maybe just before, but as I was pitching my CEO on this vision I have for a unified marketing, sales, and customer success, Tomasz on his blog wrote about this idea of local and global maximum. I can't do it justice, maybe you want to speak briefly to it.
Sure. Yeah, so this is not my idea. I heard a man named Travis Bryant, who's a CRO at Optimizing, talk about this at a software conference. But basically, the way that go-to-market structures in most software companies work today is you have a marketer whose responsibility is educating a potential buyer. You have a sales team whose responsible is taking the customer out of the hands of marketing, closing the account, signing the customer contract. And then you have a customer success function whose responsibility is to accept the closed customer and make them a lasting customer for the business. And the way that most companies run those go-to-market teams is they focus on optimizing each of those different teams in isolation. So marketing is, different teams are pulled on, whether it's leads generated, MQL, months to repay, number of meetings created. You've got any universe of the number of metrics that the marketing team is focused on. And the marketing team is exclusively focused on doing that. Sales, it's about whether it's conversion rates, ACV, sales cycle, cash conversion cycle, whatever it is. And then the customer success team is really gold on churn, customer success, net revenue expansion, a bunch of other metrics there. And that's really great for creating local maximum. A local maximum meaning, if we just look at this chart, the local maximum is the point on the far right, which is each of those teams can be operating at the highest possible level individually, but that actually doesn't generate the maximum amount of value for the business. That's a really important point. Even though marketing may be firing on all cylinders, sales is firing on all cylinders, and customer success is firing on all cylinders, the company as a whole may not be firing on all cylinders. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And so what really has to happen is that a new role is being defined, and we're starting to see this at some of the most innovative companies in the Valley, which is a customer operations function, or I like Isaac's terms better, which is a go-to-market operations function. And that function is mainly responsible for centralizing the data across those 3 different organizations, the marketing team, the sales team, the customer support team, and then optimizing across, creating a common language, a common lexicon of data, terms, metrics, and go-to-market strategies, so that the marketer is going after exactly the right kind of customer, that the customer success people are going to be very effective in growing and cultivating. And so the churn rates go way down, the yield goes way up, and the company as a whole is spending far less capital to grow even faster.
Yeah, I think this is really key too, because I believe that in each of these individual operations functions, we're doing a great job in marketing ops and sales ops to really drive that local optima. But by creating a role that's responsible for marketing, sales, and customer success, reaching that global optima, as Tomasz said, we can unlock new business value. We've been working on aligning marketing and sales for the better part of a decade. How many of you have reached marketing and sales alignment? Oh, I'm really worried now. I don't think I saw one hand go up. Oftentimes what gets missed is customer success. They're responsible for actually delivering the product that marketing promised up front and sales sold. And if it's different, if the customer receives something different than what was promised, there's misalignment in that customer journey. So orchestrating marketing, sales, and customer success is one big chunk of business value that go-to-market operations can add. Second is providing insights and metrics across the entire customer journey. The idea here is that we can create a shared context of the customer that doesn't exist today. The technology stack, as fragmented as it is across 7,800 different marketing technologies and who knows how many sales and customer success technologies, there's data trapped in those silos that if it's not integrated into subsequent steps in the customer journey where sales can see the intelligence, where customer success can understand the tickets that have been created in the past, we're missing opportunities to create better customer experiences. By aligning these three functions together and creating a shared customer journey, we can create more value for the business that provides better customer experiences and by extension, higher throughput of that customer journey. And the last is customer health and sales efficiency. The idea is that customer health, however you measure it, Net Promoter Score maybe, can go up as a result of having that shared context. And sales efficiency, this is the idea of whether you use magic number, or whether you use cost to acquire over lifetime value. If we only work on those local optimizations where we're delivering leads, that Tomasz mentioned, or we're delivering sales, then we're not actually maximizing on our net income statement the ratio of marketing and sales expense to revenue. And there's a real opportunity to do this. So the concept of this go-to-market operations rule can provide business value above and beyond what these local optimizations can do. And today we're going to share with you 3 frameworks that I believe are necessary, but they may not necessarily be sufficient in order to make this rule successful. So what's required to build it? The 3 frameworks are 1, a go-to-market engine that includes marketing, sales, and customer success. 2 is a technology framework that supports the digital customer journey. And then 3 is an analytics and measurement framework that helps understand the effects of local optimizations and the resulting global throughput. We'll start off with the go-to-market engine. In brief, this is just developing a narrative, understanding the persona, creating content for those personas, pushing it out through different technology channels or offline channels, and then analyzing, orchestrating, and repeating. We can go into this in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, sure. So let me tell you a story. So I work with this company called Looker. It's a business intelligence company. It's growing really fast, really terrific company. Very lucky to partner with them. And when I was interviewing our current CMO, her name is Jen Grant, she was telling me the story of how marketing worked at Box. And I'm sure all of you know Box. You may not know the history that it originally started as a music sharing service that eventually pivoted into being a file sharing service. And one of the things that really stuck out for me in the way that she created the marketing story for that business is she was really intent upon creating tension. She wanted to create tension between where the product was and where the company was ultimately going to go. And so she would get Aaron Levy, the founder and CEO, up on stage in front of CIOs and CEOs from Fortune 500 companies. So the CEO of Coca-Cola, the CIO of Kodak, you name it. And Aaron would be talking all about the future of collaboration. This is how all the workers in the Global 2000 are going to be working in 10 or 15 years. And when the CEO of Coca-Cola pulled out his phone and typed in box.com, or box.net, he didn't see that messaging at all. The tagline of the website was FTP replacement. And that seems pretty incongruous, right? You have a CEO who's going up and talking about the future of collaboration, and the website that's really talking about a particular feature that's very small. And that kind of struck me as odd. But what she's doing there is, she's doing two different things. The first is, she's identified two different personas. The first is the persona of the buyer in the future. And the second is the persona of the buyer today. The persona of the buyer in the future is the CEO of Coca-Cola, somebody who's going to spend $1 million, $5 million, $10 million a year buying seats for all the different people inside of Coca-Cola who need a box account. And she's created a talk track and a story and an arc that's very interesting to that person, so that when the CEO of Coca-Cola does fire up the website, he can see, or she can see, I know where they're going. They're not there yet today, but I know exactly where they're going, and I agree with it. So I'm going to keep an eye on this company. And that is a win. Because as the product evolves, as the company grows, eventually the product will rise up to the overall message, and Coca-Cola will become it. The second persona that she identified was the person who needed to move a file that was really big, like whatever, 100 megabyte file from this place to the next, in a really secure fashion. And it turns out that person needs a very different kind of messaging and very different sales cycle, because they're just going to sign up, swipe the credit card, $10 later, they're an account. Right? So the point of this framework is you need to do exactly, what great marketers do and what Jen has done at Box and she's doing at Looker, the first thing she does is she develops the overall narrative of the business. So in the case of Box.com, future collaboration, or in Looker, next generation business intelligence tools, or in HashiCorp's case, modern way of building software. The second is she identifies, or you identify, or one identifies all the key personas that are involved in the purchasing process here and in the future. The third thing you do is you create the narrative. Where are we going? Where is this company going? What do we value? The fourth is you take that narrative and you break it up into different steps across the customer lifecycle. Are we educating this person? Are we trying to make them evangelists? Are they close to being a buyer? Are they an existing buyer? We want to grow their account. And you syndicate it across different distribution channels. And then the fifth is you run experimentations across that whole customer lifecycle. And that's the way the most sophisticated marketers work.
Yeah, I think that outlining it in such a structured way has really helped us at HashiCorp. As small as we are, think about our go-to-market motion much more strategically than if we just started running email campaigns and display ads and everything else. This way we can actually find a way to create more value for our customer at the start rather than experimenting our way into something that may destroy value in the near term. When this customer journey is identified and you've developed that content and you're pushing it out into channels, you're developing, you bring in technologies to support that experimentation and that customer journey. And the technologies you use actually define your organization's competitive DNA, so to speak. The technologies I use at HashiCorp are going to support our unique go-to-market strategy. And if I shared that with any potential competitors in this room, now I've provided a roadmap to basically using our own strategy against us. So the technology, unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I can share our actual technology stack, our technology model. But I would love to walk you through our technology framework. And there's three systems that we define. One is a system of record. This tells you where customers are at in the customer journey. A system of engagement, which is something that interfaces with the customer or an end user to facilitate movement through the customer journey. And then a set of unifying workflows, business definitions, and business rules to help decide who has the ball in the customer relationship. So here's the framework. The customer journey is not linear, it's not a supply chain. For sake of simplicity, I have outlined maybe the critical path of a customer to move through this. In that organizational function, marketing, sales, and customer success are the three functions we have at HashiCorp that are critical in delivering business value to the customer. And what this framework implies is that marketing is responsible for moving from the first step to the second step. I'm very partial to the concept of saying prospect, inquiry, lead, opportunity, and so on. You might do something different in your organization. In reality, marketing is usually involved at every stage of the customer journey, but they're primarily responsible for moving a customer from one stage to the next and then handing off to sales. Marketing maybe is still involved, but they're not responsible for that movement. So the system of marketing has a system of record, sales has a system of record. These will be like your marketing automation tool for marketing, maybe it's your CRM for sales, maybe customer success also uses the CRM, or maybe they have something different. But in general, they each have a system of record that helps them understand where they're at in the engagement process with that customer and delivering value to that customer. Those are all supported by systems of engagement that a customer might interact with. That might be a webinar platform, your email platform. That might be, in customer success, that might be the ticketing system. And those are all supported by a system of intelligence. I classify these as things that are doing predictive lead scoring. Maybe they're doing data transfer, data cleanup, ETL type stuff. If I'm being really transparent, this is my other category where I don't know but other stuff. And then underlying all of this is the topic du jour of the customer data platform. And for what this means at HashiCorp for us is this is our data lake where we're unifying the customer from each stage of the customer journey and every different tool and technology into a unified data store that we can then use to customize customer experiences in any system, regardless of what stage the customer is at. We can use that customer data platform to enforce business policy. So who has the ball, who gets to engage? Is it marketing or sales? Who owns the next step? And we can also hook up our business intelligence system to that customer data platform. So we can do deep analytics and segment, do pivots on interesting dimensions, and ask a lot of interesting business questions. And because Tomasz is on stage with me, I'll mention that we use Looker at HashiCorp, and we love it. It provides more insights than I can get with Excel spreadsheets for sure. So all these technology platforms are strictly in support of the customer journey that was laid out in the first framework. Without that customer journey defined, without the narrative and the personas defined, building a technology stack to support that is back to front. It's not the best utilization of resources. And it's not that you need a monolithic type of singular technology. It doesn't have to be, if you're in San Francisco, maybe you use Salesforce. That doesn't have to be the system of record for everybody. It just has to help measure the customer journey for one stage to the next until the next system takes over. What's missing here, and something that I'm actively working on, is how do we apply data policy inside of the customer data platform? How do we create engagement rules so that an actor in marketing doesn't screw up customer engagement in sales? When you have a shared platform like this, now it necessitates some sort of collaboration and maybe some software-defined access type things. That's an active part that we're figuring out, and probably an opportunity for systems of intelligence to take place. And with the business intelligence layer on here, now we have an opportunity for an analytics framework that helps us measure both the global and the local optima. And I have some opinions here. I think as much as I'd like to operate strictly at a global optima level and measure sort of the high-level business metrics as I envision myself in the future, a COO that's turning knobs and pulling levers that change investment resources for different functions within the organization. Those metrics are the true north. The maybe use magic number or maybe use CAC over LTV or other types of metrics. But it's still important to continue to do local optimization, local metrics that help you A/B test and locally optimize. But with a connected customer data platform that connects the customer journey, now we can truly understand how upstream experiments influence the global throughput. They influence the global impact, the incremental value to the customer journey. Have you seen any of your organizations or any of your investment portfolio companies doing any global versus local optimizations?
Everybody's starting in different pieces. I think basically what ends up happening is a marketer or a head of the go-to-market decides I'm going to optimize a particular function. And so you had this movement that was revenue operations, where you had the combination of marketing and sales getting together in a room, and lots of our portfolio companies have done that. I think what we're starting to see now, maybe 5 to 10% of the portfolio, is bringing in customer success. And that's the last step.
Yeah. Yeah, the big thing that we're looking at HashiCorp, in fact, is right on with customer success is we need to understand how happy our customers are at the point that they're not only taking possession of the software that we're selling, but their whole engagement through the adoption, expansion, and renewal phases of that customer journey. We want to know how that NPS score is changing. In the not too distant future, we want to start measuring Net Promoter Score pre-sales. What is our brand experience once you've engaged with us in marketing? What is your experience with us after you've engaged with sales? We want to be able to understand those types of things and how they correlate with value, how they correlate with customer value, and ultimately business value. So that's the third framework that I believe is necessary for creating more business value and for an opportunity for a new role within organizations, whether it's customer operations, go-to-market operations, whether it's revenue operations. But I don't see too many organizations that are taking an approach that unifies the technology stack in support of a unified customer journey. And if somebody were to take this role, and it's not a title, I didn't wait for a particular job title to try and go down this path. But my experiment, my hypothesis, my thesis for why I joined HashiCorp is that this will create more business value for HashiCorp, and by delivering more value to the customer, and by extension, hopefully a better career path for me that leads more directly to the C-suite without a lateral change as well. And if I'm projecting this out into the future, strictly speculative, I believe that there's a C-suite role that's maybe the chief customer officer, maybe it's a COO type role for different types of companies. Could be the chief customer officer.
Yeah, we were talking about this at lunch. I mean, chief operations officers, we invest in enterprise companies and consumer companies, and you often see chief operations officers in e-commerce companies being responsible for things like fulfillment. So if you're buying razors from Dollar Shave Club, the CEO is actually responsible for optimizing the end-to-end customer experience. We don't have that notion yet in software, but I think, and I agree with Isaac, that it's not crazy to think of a notion where there's actually a chief operations officer within B2B companies that is exclusively responsible for the end-to-end customer delivery. And some people today call that chief customer officer. I think this is a little bit different. We're talking here about somebody who's actually managing the goals of the VPM, the VPS, and the VPCS, and then also orchestrating all the different systems across in order to achieve those global maximum.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's important to keep in mind as I've been going down this path is I noticed that there's a lot of job title inflation in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of, it's cheaper to give somebody a job title than a promotion. I don't know if that's like a secret, but regardless of what the title is or whatever, this is a role that we're describing, and regardless of the role, they all have the same objective, and that's to focus on creating customer experiences that create more value for the customer, and by extension, create more value for the business, and that will yield higher throughput of the customer journey, and ultimately create more value for you as well. So that's sort of the trifecta of business value. So with that, I think we have just a few minutes for questions, and I think Michelle's going to join us to facilitate those.
I am. I don't have a microphone for you, however.
Might sound really loud.
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone's back and get a question asked before we answer it. Dave, over to Micah. And if everyone else could go ahead and submit any questions you might have through the form, otherwise I can take the mic around. We'll just get through a lot of questions if you use the form.
Thanks so much. Love the presentation. I fully believe everything you're talking about. Just to really quick let you know, Isaac, there's 6,829, and we do include like sales and customer support because of customer success.
Okay.
Just because of a lot of the reasons you're talking about. My question was, well, I guess it's two parts. One is, who does someone like that report to? customer operations. And would you consider those folks to eventually be CEOs? Why not go all the way to the top? If we're a customer-driven marketplace, they have a great intuition, why not?
That's a really great question. I'll give my answer, and if Tomasz, you have insight, I'd love to hear that too. Currently, I report to the head of marketing, and according to our CEO, that's the right place for this role to live. Quote, our CEO says that marketing should be the quarterback for the go-to-market organization. I believe that is also true. Oftentimes they say that the story is the strategy, and the head of marketing is often charged with creating the story. Is there a role for him to go into CEO? I don't know. We didn't talk about that at lunch. I was just looking for any C-suite role. Yeah, I don't know.
It's totally possible. You see CEOs that come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and if you had a really quantitatively driven company, it's definitely possible. So we're moving on.
Yeah, thanks. Good question.
Is there another question? Nobody else? No? I'm actually wondering, when you put together your framework, what was the most difficult piece of that in developing that? Because I'm assuming this is something you developed over many, many years being in these kinds of roles.
Initially, in developing the framework, it was a very marketing-centric, local optimization. I started by attending MarTech in Boston in 2014 and started learning a little bit more about how systems are classified. And at that time, I was with a different company, and I was charged with putting together our technology portfolio and doing some process around procurement. And I came up with the systems that would go into the systems of record and systems of engagement. But more recently, when I joined HashiCorp, and I realized that we're in charge of doing this for the entire go-to-market function, I needed a slightly different framework, or I needed to evolve that. And as I started talking with our heads of sales and our sales operations and talking with customer success, I needed a unifying framework that they could buy into, that they could agree with, and ultimately build a business case that doesn't just convince our CEO, but also convinces our head of sales ops and our head of customer ops. So the framework started taking place from top to bottom. Customer journey was at the top, followed by the functions and then the systems. And then the really tricky part came into who administrates these things. Does it continue to be me? Does it continue to be somebody in sales? And where does the budget for these things live? And that was a really sticky topic. Do I have to pay for Salesforce? Do I get to pay for Zendesk? Like, who gets that? And so that has led to a lot of interesting discussions, but one of the values of using this framework and doing this role is that the technology spend all lives with me, so we can avoid duplicitous, wasteful spend in our organizations, and we can deliver better ROI as a result, because we can actually see if the money's being used effectively or not. And there's probably some shadow tech that lives within that framework that I don't even know about at this stage of the company. But by and large, the things that are influencing the customer journey are represented on that framework, and it's continued to evolve even beyond today.
Were you able to find off-the-shelf solutions to slot into all of those areas of the framework, or how much involves custom development?
For me, it's been a buy versus build
Okay.
type of situation, and I've looked into buying, and I experimented with a few different vendors. I think that what was difficult for HashiCorp in a buy solution is we have a very complex buying process, and we have at least three personas that we have to market to, and they are all in very different channels. And we have 4 product lines, and we have both open source and enterprise versions. So I'm a math person. If I'm doing the geometric complexity of all the combinations of this, there's not a single technology vendor that can provide all the channel integrations and all the data congestion that we needed in order to build out a cohesive customer journey. So for us, buy was not a solution. We've had to go a little bit more with a microservices type of approach, where we buy point solutions but integrate them into a holistic data lake or technology customer data platform.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Does anyone have another question? You back there? Okay, he'll bring you the microphone.
So you mentioned a couple of other departments like sales and customer success. Do you have like counterparts within the sales organization, like sales operations and customer success? And can you talk a little bit about how you guys collaborate and come to decision making? You mentioned a little bit about like budgeting when you look at vendors, but when it comes to a lot of the process, developing processes, common data models, is that anything from a technical process perspective?
There's a lot to unpack there. There's a, because we're doing something new within an organization that is very different how marketing and sales and customer success has operated in the past, coming up with those types of engagement frameworks and those types of policies is strongly rooted in having good relationships and communication. I'm lucky that I get to do this at a company that's still relatively small. When I joined, we were around 50 people. We've since grown more than 4x that. And early on, I established strong relationships with my counterparts in sales ops and customer success. We don't actually have a proper marketing ops function, and that's by design. When it comes to budgeting, the type of engagement that I do with my counterparts is I allot the whole go-to-market technology budget by percentage of benchmarks. And I work with my constituents in each of those functions, sales, marketing, and customer success. And I say, this is what we can budget, and if we need to go beyond this, we need to escalate to other functions. And for the most part, that works, and it keeps the other functions honest, and choosing technologies that aren't shiny ball syndrome, and making smart trade-offs. Recently, sales has been asking for a different prospecting tool, in addition to different email engagement tools, all before we've even strongly adopted the tools that they already have in their portfolio. So this is creating some interesting incentives for them to evaluate the actual trade-offs and how much they need these tools. And so we're already starting to see better allocation of resources as a result of those relationships and conversations. When it comes to systems ownership, like administration, the approach that I'm trying to take is delegated administration for sales tools and for customer success and marketing tools, and having monthly sync-ups with the other groups, where we can work on any cross-functional types of projects that would have downstream or upstream impact or requirements. And so far, that's been working. The areas where we're still struggling a little bit is a little bit of systems integration, because we're taking a build it approach as opposed to a buy a monolithic unified technology stack. Now, what we need to do is make sure that we're choosing technology solutions that have strong APIs, strong data integration, and figuring out the prioritization of integrating that into the customer data platform. Of course, resources to do that type of integration are not cheap, and so there's challenging prioritization conversations that can go out as a result of that. So that's one challenge that we're working on solving. Great question.
Does anyone else have a question? No? Oh, yep, right there. He's down there.
So I think most of us here are in marketing as well. So I'd like to hear what are the one or two biggest things you've learned about sales ops and customer success ops?
Customer success ops is a little bit of a bolt-on addition to a lot of customer success orgs today, and I think they need the most help. Sales ops has a pretty well-defined role in our organization. They've willfully given up ownership of a lot of technology projects. Like, they don't want to do another customer quote project. They're happy to let us manage that. In the process of taking over that project, I've learned a lot about sales incentives, about sales comp plans. I've learned a lot about how the sales organization prioritizes their asks. And it's been a very insightful process that helps me better understand what type of global optimizations we can do upstream to better serve the sales organization. I'm a numbers guy. I'm not big on talking about empathy and sort of the things that the other half of the brain in marketing thinks about. But I've actually developed a lot of empathy for our sales organization as a result of working on this. They don't have an easy job, and they have the most quantifiable job in the company. So I learn and do a lot of work to try to make them successful. In customer success, I mentioned there's a huge opportunity to help them out. A lot of the time I'm finding they're not even aware of the tools or have access to the tools that marketing and sales would have to automate their workflows, to create better customer experiences, to keep their fingers on the pulse of the customer. They go off, because they don't have the access to the same people or the same tools, they go off and try to build or buy their own, and oftentimes it's not integrated well into the organization, and it flops. And I think there's a real opportunity to work with that organization to create more customer value, because the customer is expecting delivery of the product, whether it's software or something else. And if you don't finish that last mile of the customer journey in a way that marketing promised upstream or that sales promised, then your chances for repeat purchases or renewals goes down significantly. And I think we as marketers, if we're interested in being this role that unifies the customer journey, I think we have to build a business case internally and work collaboratively with the other functions to show what they can benefit by contributing to this unified customer journey. In sales, it would be better sales intelligence, better leads. In customer success, they would better understand what types of upstream activities in marketing or sales are contributing to high or low NPS scores or churn rates. So with sales, I've learned a ton and developed a lot of empathy for the challenges of their jobs. In customer success, we're just scratching the surface with that. There's a lot of work to do there. Yeah, that's a great question. I should have had that in my presentation.
All right, well, thank you so much. Please, everyone, join me in a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. We're back in 45 minutes.